After a tragic loss, how do you cope? Some people indulge in vices. Others seek therapy. Some even start a horror movie review channel. No, I'm not projecting, you're projecting. In The Descent, you go cave diving into an undiscovered cave with cannibalistic bat people. Welcome back, horror fans. I'm Leo, and Bootube Breakdowns is here to save your scary movie night from becoming a complete snooze fest. Right off the bat, The Descent scores a 4.8 out of 10, placing it in our Zombie Stumbles category. Time for the good news. I've already had to survive a panic attack while a cave collapsed on me just to get you the score. And in a few minutes, you'll see how The Descent fell into our Zombie Stumbles category. If you disagree with my rating, be sure to butcher my legs so a bat creature can eat me while you escape the cave. And let me know all about it in the comment section. So what is this movie about? In The Descent, a group of women head into a cave for some bonding, adrenaline, and emotional healing. Because nothing says recovery like crawling through pitch black tunnels. At first, it's all ropes, teamwork, and claustrophobia, until the group realizes they've been led off the map by a thrill junkie with something to prove. Then, the cave starts fighting back. Tight spaces collapse, people get injured, and the way out disappears. Just when you think that's the nightmare, the movie cranks it up. Surprise! There's a colony of blind, cave-dwelling humanoid monsters down here, and they're hungry. What follows is a brutal descent, literally and emotionally, into primal survival. One by one, the group turns on each other or gets torn apart, and whatever trust they had dissolves fast. It stops being about escape and starts being about who's willing to become the bigger monster. There's no happy ending, no safety nets, just blood, rocks, and screaming in the dark. So now let's talk about this story. The Descent keeps things simple. Tragic backstory, adrenaline-fueled bonding trip, and then everything goes to hell fast. Sarah loses her family in a car crash straight out of Final Destination, and after some off-screen grief time, her friends drag her into a cave for closure. The setup works until Juno drops her genius surprise. Hey guys, this isn't the cave we planned. I brought you to an uncharted death hole instead. And somehow, that's supposed to be empowering. Look, I'm not even an amateur spelunker. I'm barely a hobbyist, but even I know there's protocol. If you're going into a mapped cave, you leave markers, timelines, and an emergency call-in plan. That's just basic survival, not special ops training. Instead, they wander into a completely unknown cave system with zero prep, no backup, and no exit strategy. When the cave-in hits, they're all standing around confused, like,
"Oh no! What happened? Oh no! How terrible! That's just awful! How terrible! Oh no!"
So naturally, the only choice is to go deeper. Then, surprise cave painting, apparently drawn by prehistoric exposition people to let us know there's a second exit. How convenient. Monsters show up right after, and the rest is a bloody game of hide or die. The pacing drags, the logic collapses, and by the end, you're just watching characters get picked off with all the emotional impact of a slasher highlight reel. Story quality, 4 out of 10. Bloated, contrived, and borderline insulting to anyone who's ever read a survival manual. Now for the pacing. The pacing isn't terrible, but it's aggressively average. You can feel the formula at work. 10 minutes of action, 10 minutes of exposition, rinse, repeat. It's horror by numbers, with each scene feeling like it's on a timer. The movie never drags, but it never surprises either. You always know when the next scary thing will happen, and when it's time for another quiet character moment that goes nowhere. It's not the worst offender in the genre, but it plays it painfully safe. There's no tension in the rhythm, just a steady mechanical hum until the runtime's up. Then, right on cue, one last cheap scare, cut to black. It's horror made for scheduling efficiency, not impact. Pacing gets a flat 5 out of 10. When it comes to horror, The Descent goes full camp and leads way too hard on cheap scares. There's an early effort to build a claustrophobia with tight tunnels and darkness, but subtle tension doesn't last long. The creatures are surprisingly believable. Their dart and bite ambush style actually makes sense for blind predators in unfamiliar territory. But the second they're revealed, the movie shifts into red-lit chaos and never looks back. A flare gets lit, and suddenly we're stuck in saturated crimson for what feels like the rest of the runtime. The atmosphere dies, the novelty fades, and the only thing left to escalate is body count. What started as a psychological survival story quickly turns into a monster beatdown montage with glow sticks. The creatures stop being scary and start feeling like stuntmen in great makeup. And the scares? Almost entirely cheap. Loud noises, sudden cuts, and things lunging out of frame. Over and over. Like the editor had a button labeled boo and couldn't stop pressing it. I counted 4 solid cheap scares, and that's being generous. The makeup earns it a couple points, but the reliance is lazy. Artificial frights drop the scare score to a 2 out of 10. All that said, The Descent does have its moments. The opening death scene plays like a direct wink to the Final Destination era. Quick, brutal, and oddly stylish for a family tragedy. The cave-in hits at just the right time to shake up the pacing, and the monster hunting sequences are tight, tense, and at least early on, genuinely clever. The atmosphere inside the cave is oppressive in the best way, and the creature makeup is top-tier nightmare fuel. Credit where it's due. The effects team carried this film on their gore-soaked backs. By the time we get to the blood pools, shattered bones, and characters using animal parts as improvised weapons, it's less horror, more chaos arena. And honestly, it's kind of great. It's dumb fun wrapped in darkness, and the final encounter alone almost makes the whole thing worth watching. It's not perfect, but when the movie leans into madness, it actually delivers. For all its flaws, the fun factor still lands strong, scoring an 8 out of 10. For the ending, however, The Descent stumbles hard and lands face first into the campiest of camps. Thanks to studio meddling, there are 2 versions floating around, but I'm going to focus on the original UK ending, the one the creators actually intended. On paper, it's bleak. Betrayal, hallucinations, and the realization that survival was never really on the table. I get why Sarah turns on Juno in the end. Fight or flight, and in that moment it's all instinct. But when she escapes, only to wake up still trapped, and moments from being eaten alive, you end up with the horror movie's equivalent of the "it was a dream all along" trope. The hallucinations are meant to show that her trauma never left, she was just spiraling deeper into it. But by then, the emotional weight for the audience had already slipped. Everyone's dead, nothing was gained, and the whole journey amounts to grief in a cave and you're stuck in it forever. Which, that by itself would be fine if it didn't come off so forced. The American ending tries to clean it up, but just ends up neutering the impact entirely, trading existential dread for cheap closure. Nothing lands well. There's an attempt at depth, but it all falls flat, and by the time the credits roll, you're left more numb than disturbed. Me, ending score 5 out of 10. So that's Bootube Breakdowns' take on The Descent. Averaging our score places this movie at a 4.8 out of 10, placing it in our zombie stumble category. Do you agree with my rating? Scream your score in the comments and tell me what horror flick I should gut next. If this saved your spooky vibes, smash that like, share with your horror crew, and subscribe to Bootube Breakdowns for even more killer verdicts. Keep it creepy, and I'll haunt you in the next review.